Good evening, crafting friends. I'm Dorene Decibus from It Begins with Ink and Paper, and welcome to Funfold Friday. I am really glad you're able to join me tonight. I'm just getting it set up on my iPad so I can kind of watch as we're going along. And it looks like we've got everything on the screen, so that looks good. Just so you can see the whole set. Move that down a little bit. So I have a terrible cold, so I apologize for any funny sounds my voice makes. I have a throat lozenge in my mouth to hopefully help me not start coughing like crazy. Last Saturday and Sunday, I had flu-like symptoms for the whole weekend. Didn't have a temperature, which was kind of strange, but I had all the other symptoms: sore throat, aches and pains, all that stuff. And actually even stayed home from work on Monday and Tuesday. Went in Wednesday and Thursday and felt fine. And last night, this cold just kind of sunk into my chest. And I woke up this morning feeling great, but left work at 2 o'clock because as the day went on, it just got worse and worse. And I really wanted to take a nap when I got home, but I had a feeling if I went to bed, I probably wouldn't get back up. So I'm here tonight because this is what I love to do, and I didn't want to miss another live because I missed Sunday's live, and I should be on this Sunday too. Currently for Simply Stamping Sunday, we're going to be using the Trucking Along stamp set, but unfortunately I didn't get to present it Sunday night, so I'm using that set in tonight's card so that I can use a little more. This is an online exclusive, so the only way you can get this is to go online. It's not in any catalog, so that's just so that you know. And it also has a truck punch that goes along with it. That just makes it a really cute bundle. I'm also using the Horse and Sleigh stamp set. This is also an online exclusive, and I'm using it just for one of the tree and one of the sentiments in it. This is a great set too. It has some great dies with it. The card we're making tonight is a square front flap Christmas card using non-traditional Christmas colors. I love Pool Party with Early Espresso, and this piece of designer series paper I'm using from the One Horse Open Sleigh. I cut a little bit off of it at the top, not thinking that I wanted to show you the whole piece first. But it has some Early Espresso and Pool Party all throughout this piece of paper. So I thought it was a great piece of paper to use tonight and to create this card. I did see something like this online. Mine's a little different, but let's get started. So this card opens up like a card normally opens up. So it's a front flap on this particular case, but it has this square front flap on the front that when you open it up, you get a little surprise inside. And the surprise is the piece of designer series paper that's beneath this little fun flap on the front. So it's a cute little card. So let's get started and talk about what we need. For your piece for basic white, you're going to need a piece that's 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and you're going to need a scrap that you can then cut the largest square from the Stylish Shapes dies. And so we're going to be doing some stamping on both of these. You're going to need 2 pieces of Pool Party cardstock that are cut in 2 7/8 by 2 7/8 inches. You're going to need a Pool Party that's also cut at 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And you're going to need a piece of designer series paper that is cut 4 by 5 1/4. And what I want to show you is that I cut using that same die, the largest Stylish Shape square. out a section of this designer series paper. And so what I had to do with the designer series paper, let's see, where did I just put that big piece? No, I just had it. Isn't that funny how something can just disappear so quickly away? Well, what you need to do when you're looking at that designer series paper, before you cut it down to the size that you want it to be, oh, it's right here in front of me. Before you cut it down to the size you want it to be, you need to think about what part you want to highlight on the inside of the card, the inside of that front flap. So I started by I cut 3/4 of an inch off the top, and then I was going to cut the rest off of the bottom to make this be 4 inches tall. And then I cut over here to make it 5 1/8 of an inch wide. So that's how I decided to cut it. This is from the One Horse Open Sleigh Designer Series package. The back side just has a plain red pattern, but this designer series paper is just gorgeous. And again, with the other pieces, it's only available as part of an online exclusive. So this is definitely must-have paper. You also are going to need a piece of Early Espresso. Like I said, I love Early Espresso and Pool Party together. So we're definitely doing an untraditional or non-traditional Christmas card color combination at least. And this piece measures 3 inches by 6 inches, and we're going to score on the 6-inch side at 3 inches. And then for our card base, we need a piece of 5.5 by 8.5 cardstock, and we're going to be scoring it at 4 1/4. I could have done just a half a sheet of cardstock and just then put this panel on top of it. Just things that I really like to do is have room inside my card to write a message, and I can also put a piece of basic white cardstock up here and down here so that I have plenty of room to write. So that's one of the reasons I didn't do it as just a single layer. Okay, so I'm going to start by getting my scoreboard out. It's my favorite thing to use when I need to score something, especially if I need to score a bunch of things. It just works so nicely. Let me just get my scoring tool. So I'm going to start with my piece of my card base, and I'm going to score this at 4 1/4 inches. And then I am going to take this along the 6-inch side, and I'm going to score this at 3 inches. So there I have my 2 pieces scored. That's all the scoring you have to do for tonight's card. So it's a pretty easy card, but it has all of the wonderful layers that I like in a card. So I'm going to take this and grab my bone folder and just give it a really nice crease here. Make sure you say hello. And oh, I just turned my volume on. Sorry.
Hello.
Let me just to mute that. So make sure you say hello tonight, and hi Angela. I'm glad that you are joining me again tonight. I bet it's been a cold week up in the North Country, because it's been really cold down here in on the southwestern border of New Hampshire. Okay, so those are scored and folded. Let's start doing some stamping. We'll do the stamping before we do anything else. So we need the 2 white pieces. So in the inside, I am going to just be stamping the greeting. I'm using the greeting from the Horse and Sleigh set, and I'm also using on the front I'm using Wishing You a Festive Christmas, that comes from Trucking Along, and then on the inside I'm using the And a Happy New Year from the Horse and Sleigh set. Excuse me, do you when you're not feeling good, like the words just don't want to come? So I'm just going to ink this up in my Early Espresso ink, And I'm going to stamp this towards the middle of the cardstock. There we go. Put that aside. And then I'm going to take this tree that's also from the Horse and Sleigh set. And just because the front of this card was full of trees, I wanted to put this tree just on the side of the card. So we'll just put that down. So we just have a little bit of the tree showing. I don't want the whole tree to be showing, but I did want to have something other than just the Happy New Year inside. So this is the easy part of the card. We can just put this on the inside, but let's make sure it opens it the right way first. So I'm going to add some Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to put this on the inside of the card. There we go. And then I'm going to be stamping using still, I'm going to try to get as much of the Espresso stamping done. On this inside piece, I'm going to be taking the Wishing You a Festive Christmas, and that's going to get some espresso, early espresso ink. And I'm going to be stamping that right towards the top. So I still get the house with the smoke coming up out of it. You can see that well, but I have that greeting right there. And then here is where I'm going to do a lot of my stamping. So I'm going to first put down a dirt, kind of a dirt road image, like feeling of a dirt road, my square. And I'm going to just keep this open, but put it over to the side so I don't stamp something in the wrong color ink. I'm going to use my Memento Black, and I'm going to stamp the outline of the truck. And that's going to go sort of like it's riding along on this dirt road. There we go. And I am also going to stamp in the wheels. Let me just find that one. I'm using a lot of different stamps tonight because this is a two-step stamping set. So I have a lot of parts and pieces. So I'm going to be stamping the tires and the middle of the tires. So there we go. So we have those nice black tires. And I think right now that's it for the for that part. Then I'm going to take the Pool Party ink and I'm going to fill in my truck. Now, when you're doing a solid stamp, I'm going to show you a little hint. I'm just going to bring this down a little bit so it's closer to my eye level, so I make sure I get this in stamped correctly. Sometimes you don't get a perfectly solid stamped image, but there is a way to fix it. Just like for this one, I'm not getting the best stamped image. Not as solid as I'd like it to be. So that's when I can bring in my blends and kind of take over where I want it to be colored in. You can start, if you want, with your lighter blends and just kind of go over the spots that are a little bit speckled, and you can see how it fills it right in. And I'll hold that up so you can see both bumpers. So you can see this one that I've just colored in over, and speckles to go away so they don't even show in the other one. Then take your darker Stampin' Blend and just color over it, and you can then really get a nice color on it, and you don't have any of those marks left. I didn't want to just color in the truck with my my blends, because the truck has certain points on it that are white, and they're white on purpose to just have where the light is kind of coming. So if I had just colored in, I might not have gotten those light spots, but by then just going over where I want it to be, I can just go over that with my markers as well. The other thing I can do to try to get my stamp to stamp more evenly is to take it and rub it along my paper. Since it's a photopolymer, sometimes it needs almost like a little sandpapering, and so if I rub it along that and then go to stamp it again, I will often get a much better stamped image, as you can see there. So that's just a little trick. All right. So now I am going to take my brown ink. I have 2 more things to stamp, but I want to do this one first. And I have a little stamp that says Farm Fresh that I'm going to put on this truck, because this truck is going to be delivering some beautiful Christmas trees. So we have that stamped. Just bring it up a little closer to show you. Perfect, huh? And then I'm going to take my very light, I want to give my hubcaps, I want them to kind of match. So, but I'm just going to use my very light Pool Party shade in my hubcaps. And I'll show you up close how that looks afterwards. So then I'm going to take my Garden Green ink pad, and I'm going to, doing a lot of stamping on this little tiny piece of paper. I am going to take my tree stamps. I have one that's solid that I'm going to ink up in the Garden Green, but I don't want to stamp it with 100% of that ink. So I'm going to stamp off of it, and then I'm going to stamp it into my truck. And isn't that cool how it just fits in there so nicely? And then I have the detail of the tree that I'm going to stamp full ink, and it just fits over the tree so nicely. So let me just hold that up again so that you can see that we have some different coloration by stamping off and then stamping on with the full ink power. Okay, that's all we need for that ink pad. And then I wanted to add some clouds before I stamp my other greeting on this. And so I'm going to use Lost Lagoon, and I'm going to ink it up. I'm going to stamp off it again, and then I'm going to just add some clouds in the sky. This way, with, stamping off and then stamping on, I'm getting a much lighter image of my clouds. So it's not super dark, as you can see down here on my my grid paper. Isn't that cool how it looks? Okay, almost done stamping. So then finally, because this farm truck is doing a delivery, it's a special delivery for our Christmas. So I'm going to ink that up in the early Espresso again, and I'm going to stamp that right across the top. It's going to go over one of the clouds. And that is all these stamps out of the way. Push them over to the side. So now we're ready to start putting this all together. So I'm going to start with my little square flap for the front of my card. So these are both, they were both cut with the same die, and they're both going to be adhered to the smaller piece, the 2 7/8 by 2 7/8 piece of Pool Party cardstock. It just gives it a little whisper of color around it, which is just such a nice effect for this card in particular. If you don't want a color to be, if you want it to be more subtle and not right in your face. So I'm going to put that on the front flap. And I got a little bit of ink there. Must have been some on my hand. Well, I will cover that up with an embellishment. We'll either add when we add our pearls, or when I can always add a little piece of ribbon too. I would hate to think if anyone ever took my cards apart and they'd see how many smudges are underneath ribbons and embellishments. So here we have that piece on, and again, it's just a little hint of color around the piece of designer series paper. And I'm going to add this to the inside, which just makes a nice little surprise. You don't usually see the designer series paper inside a little card. So here's our front, and here's that part. So now I'm going to be adding this piece of designer series paper to the piece of Pool Party. So again, piece of just a little dab of color. So we just have this little tiny border around it again, and you can see how pretty that is, having the little just dab of color around the outside. And this is going to go on the front of our card. And then this is going to go on again, because it is cut the way it's cut, we're not going to have a lot of brown of the Espresso showing. Okay, so now this piece is going to cover up this rectangle we have on the front. Now, I could have made this so the square part, this little flap card, was centered on the card, but I decided to have it not centered. So not only not centered on this card, but not even centered up and down. So I did it so it's going to look like this. When we pick it up, we don't see any of the stitching below it, because this 3x3 section is just a little bigger. So now we're going to cover up that. Let me look and see what I want to use for that. Oh, so many choices. Just going to see if I have some basic white. I don't see any. Let's see if I've got any in my big container. Not really. Well, that should work okay. So I'm just going to pull a piece of this twine off and cut it. This is at Michael's. I just bought these lids, and I put my baker's twine through it. So it sits in the mason jar, and then I can just pull out what I need. Quite helpful to just, saves that mess that could be on my desk. So I'm just going to make a double bow. I like the double bows better than just a single piece of baker's twine. But this has saved me so many times when I have smudged my ink. Okay. And I just threw that on the floor, so let me get that. Sorry about that, putting my head in your way. So we're going to put this right off to the side like this at the tail end of the truck, and it will not, will cover up that little bit of ink that I splattered. Okay, so now let's just put our gems and we'll be all done. So I am going to take 2 of my small ones, and I think I'm going to put right here at the top. And I'm going to take a large one and put right down here in front of the truck. And I did want to show you, I meant to show you this before. Let me just show this real quick. You can take your Stampin' blends, and if you want to color, this isn't a very dark color, but you can color in your pearls. So let me show you what that looks like. So I meant to do that with this, and I forgot. So I thought about it after I made my sample. But you can see how I colored in the pool party and how it would just add a whole nother look to the card. But the iridescent pearls are fine. That is tonight's Fun Fold Friday. So we have the inside of the card, we have the outside, and we have the inside of the square flap on the front. So thank you so much for joining me for Fun Fold Friday. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you come back and see some more of my trucking along samples that we're going to make for Simply Stamping Sunday. I'm going to have 2 cards to make for you this weekend to make up for missing last Sunday, and I'll have 2 next weekend too, so that we can at least have 4 cards for the month. It's a short month this month because we have Christmas Eve on the 24th and New Year's Eve on the 31st. So I won't be live on those 2 nights. But thank you for joining me tonight, and take care, everyone. Good night. Bye-bye.